Jensen, what the hell's going on out there? Broadcast frequencies are going haywire.
Malik, is that you? Where are you?
Coming into visual range of Singapore now. Been in the air since Pritchard first pinged you.
Good timing. I'm heading for a hangar bay to open the roof. I'll need an emergency extraction.
Roger that. I'm on my way.
So like I was saying before, I always felt there should be gameplay separating that cutscene beats into certain things. And one of the things that I was kind of always thinking we would have here is an opportunity through once Darrow through the signal to actually have to struggle your way through Omega Ranch, through the crazy, so you get that experience of it. And it was kind of in my head how this was all going to play out.
But the
with the non-crazies.
Yeah. But the thing is that I wanted to save those fabulous crazies for the last map as much as possible. They have been hinted in the White Room when we were with Megan, and you see it on television. And we wanted to have a first glimpse in Omega Range before heading to Panchea, just to have kind of a foreshadowing, like all the mess they could do. But I don't want it to overstate it. That's why we managed to keep it very, very low profile.
Yeah, and the other struggle that we were having here was how do we get Malik to come back if she's alive, because we really wanted a payoff for that. And it wasn't so much how do we get her to come back and save you, but if she's not alive, how do we get you out of here?
Exactly.
And we had a whole struggle to try and figure out, okay, if Malik is dead, then it's going to have to be Megan and the scientist who save you. And if she's alive, then it'll be her. And how do we play all of that into basically a funnel at the end of this map?
Hey, Jensen! Looks like you could use some help! I see the scientist, Jensen. I'm landing nearby. And I think Dr. Reed wants to speak to you. Hang on.
Hello? Adam? We're all fine, but you have to get to Panchea and stop Hugh.
You and I aren't done with this, Megan.
I know how it looks, but you have to stop the broadcast. I think it's causing the new biochips to overstimulate the vagus nerve, creating terrifying hallucinations.
You mean it's driving augmented people insane?
Yes, and it's up to you to stop it. Use the Leo shuttle. It will take you to Panchea. Good luck, Adam.
Automated systems online. Darrow sequence 1, code 1, 1A, preset and ready to engage. Suborbital trajectory plotted. Destination Panchea. Begin countdown, Mr. Darrow.
Begin countdown.
Code 000. Confirm 0. Countdown commencing.
So to continue on the comment of the yellow shuttle and going into space, what was really exciting for me is that I really wanted players to be able to see the Earth and everything. And actually, that sequence was supposed to be
Slightly playable.
Slightly playable. You were supposed to be in first person in the cockpit and be able to look around through all the windows and see different sections of the Earth and everything. And as we produce a first version of it that was not playable, was just in cutscene, we didn't see the Earth really. And because we have constraint in time in producing it, and I was like, no, the whole point is to really have a glimpse of the Earth. We need to see it and everything.
I'm cutting you also to say that he's wearing a helmet in the trailer.
Yeah, and now he's reckless.
Yeah.
But and finally, like, we managed to show a bit more of the Earth. And now we were closing the deal on the Icarus myth. Like in the actual myth, Icarus falls into the sea, and this is what's happening.
That was the entire idea.
Yeah.
Jensen. Jensen, can you read me?
Barely. I've reached Panchea, Pritchard. Any word from Sarah for the UN delegates?
Nothing. The installation went into lockdown shortly after Darrow gave his speech. I can't tell if anyone's even alive. And the signal's still broadcasting.
Meaning no one's safe till I get in there and shut it down.
You'll have to disengage the lockdown first. Look for a master control panel at the top of the tower.
Pritchard, Panchea's broadcast center is at the base of the station near the bottom of the ocean. Is that right?
But the lockdown caused all the blast doors to seal. You won't be able to go down until you override them manually.
From up in the tower. I got it.
Access
This Panchea map, actually the first part of the map was, our intention was to have an eerie feeling, like when you get there, there's nothing happening, there's no life, there's
empty.
It's empty. You just wonder what's going on and everything. And the goal was to make it very uncomfortable and make you like on your toes.
Yeah, creepy.
Not knowing what.
A bit
to
like
expect.
the beginning of Aliens, of the second Alien movie, when they get to the base. They don't know
nobody there.
they don't know what's happened. There's supposed to be all those terraformers, all those employees, and it's just totally empty, and they don't know what happened. It was a bit this idea.
Yeah, it's a good reference. It's exactly what we were. For us on the audio side, it was obviously a really fun, rich palette because you're like, okay, eerie. For me, I'm a huge horror fan, so that was great. And what we did is we knew we had the crazies in the map. So even though there's nothing going on, we added a lot of like little like whispers and just that whole, cha 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 type thing in the ambience. Yeah, exactly. So that was great because you know what? It alluded to the crazies that we would soon be encountering, and you would hear them, and you're like JF said, where is everybody first? And what is that I'm hearing? And obviously I'm going to be finding out soon. So it was all about just creating and adding as much tension as we could because we really wanted the player to feel very uncomfortable here as to like, you got this huge complex, where is everybody?
Yeah.
And it was, we're big fans of Resident Evil 4, and for us it was kind of our opportunity to have our little Resident Evil moment.
4 moment.
Pay homage.
Resident Evil 4 could be my best game of all time after Zelda: Link to the Past, probably. But enough with the plugs.
And the 3,000 other games that you said that were the best.
That are the best ones ever made. But then it's cool because then you go at the top of the tower, and then whatever happens with our friend Darrow, and then everything gets triggered, and then that's where the zombies come out.
Yeah. Here, if you look by the window, you can see all the icebergs on the ocean, and that's what is funny about that is, as when we develop a game, we always go with layers. As you build the geometry, then like you can move around, and eventually a first pass of visuals. But it takes a long time before you get to the end, and probably my fear came back from conception time, where the first concept art for Panchea, we said we're in 2027, so the global warming has increased much more, so there's a lot of meltdown of the icebergs and stuff. And the first concept art about Panchea, there was no iceberg on it, and I went to John and saying, yes, it's melting down, but we need to have a little bit more. And he added, but after that, as we were building the map, icebergs were still not there, but because we were not there yet.
Well, it's because they had melted in the meantime.
Yeah, in the meantime, because it took us 4 years. Yeah. So. But I was constantly reviewing the map, like looking by the window. I want my icebergs. I want the icebergs there and everything. And after a while, the guys, especially John, they were tired of me, like with my icebergs. And as soon as I was coming in the room for this, and there are going to be icebergs, even before I mentioned it. And eventually they got there, and I could really relax and be happy.
But it was just the tip of the iceberg.
Here, we're very close by the first crazy that you can encounter if
and
you really
I could just say,
explore. Yes.
I've always hated the name crazies.
Yeah.
They shouldn't be. We unfortunately made the mistake of calling them crazies in the production because they weren't supposed to be zombies. They weren't supposed to be crazy.
No.
The storyline is that they were supposed to have been in a state of terror. They're suffering terrible, terrible hallucinations, and everybody is acting out of fear. And when your gut instinct kicks in, when you're that terrified, and many of them are, it's fight or flight, and many of the people are supposed to be these trained soldiers who are going to fight, and it's going to be very dangerous. But we made the mistake of calling them crazies. And when we called them crazies, everything just started going from there.
Yeah. So actually, and when we thought about them and everything, because of the story, the AI that would be needed for them would be different than the rest of the game.
Definitely.
But since it was the only part of the game where you actually see them and a little bit in Omega Ranch, we couldn't put it as a priority. You have to have the AI for the rest of the game to be working super well before we get into this.
You need the AI that you're going to see 98% of the time good.
Exactly. So it was the last thing that we really focused on. And like Mary said, like, just because we were calling them crazies, it put everybody in a state of mind that they are crazies.
That they're just insane.
Exactly. And it informed the animation and all to go in that direction. And the thing is that back in the day when we were thinking about them, we didn't really have good references to base them on. And as they were done and everything, I saw an episode of Fringe season 2 where I can't remember which episode it is, but you have these people who just go in hallucinating some stuff, and it makes them kill people just because they're in this fight or flight kind of moment, etc. And I was like, gosh, if I've seen it, or if it had existed when we were talking about them, the crazies the way they are, they wouldn't exist. So. Here, the last social boss fight, our last encounter with a madman. Actually, it's the one that we acknowledge ourselves to, like, it's the silliest one in the sense that the chip went off, people are dying all over the world, and you have Adam Jensen that goes into this lengthy conversation with this guy while people are
but at the same time they do this in movies and everything. You know, it's a bit like before the big guy wants to kill the hero, like the mad guy wants to kill the hero, and it makes a lengthy
but at the same
fits
time,
into this whole thing.
So it was ridiculous, but at the same time it was needed to hammer philosophies once more.
What I'm saying is that we're not the first ones to
choice.
use that means.
No.
Exactly.
And actually, I think our original intentions with it were to kind of shake up and say, you know, why not have a boss fight where at the end of the game where it's a conversation and you have to try and convince this madman of the rationale behind it. Yeah. Unfortunately, it wasn't the last one we wrote, but it was a switch of writers. Many of the boss fights were written by one writer on the project, Taras, who was fantastic, and then unfortunately he ended up leaving the project, and so we had to kind of train other writers on staff to do it. So it was a bit of and it's quite a difficult thing to write. So I think that kind of came into it. I think the fact that we had to get this actor to perform and gradually over the course of the conversation get angrier and angrier, and yet you can't really get too angry in these conversations because they all have to bleed back into all the multiple choices. So a lot of that led to, I think, a lot of issues on
and then even with the body acting, like at first he uses his cane and like he has a hard time moving around, and eventually gets passionate about what's talking about.
It's all over the place.
He forgets that he has trouble with his
leg. Because the adrenaline kicks in and he forgets about the pain, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I think we actually had two different mocap actors because I think we mocapped it once and we weren't happy and we had to redo it with someone else, so that might have also contributed to all that. So this one was not by any means my favorite.
But at least we had good visuals in the background, right?
Yeah, that's totally true. Thank you.
with our small birds that are
I saved the day. Is that what you're saying? No. But the room itself is visually speaking is definitely, again, I guess it goes with the whole Darrow thing that we've been talking about. The room itself is really not one of the best visuals of the game. But in the background, the matte painting that we have of Pangaea and that big gaping hole that goes into the ocean is
impressive.
It's quite impressive. Is I think pretty much movie quality. It's Jim Murray who did it, one of our concept artists, and turned out very well. So.
And I can't remember if in this shot we can see icebergs.
I hope not.
I don't think you want to do that, Mr. Jensen. Disengage lockdown, and whatever demons this station contains are likely to come crashing out on us.
Afraid to die, Darrow? Or just unwilling to face what you've done?
Oh, I know what I've done, believe me. I take no pleasure in it.
And yet you still did it.
I did what had to be done. 20 years ago, I gave the world augmentation technology. I thought I was giving it a bright future, but instead I gave it the means to destroy itself. No law, no UN regulation was going to fix that.
People are dying out there. Hundreds of thousands of people driven to the brink of insanity because of you.
I had to convince the world. Before today, people believed we should steal fire from the gods and redesign human nature. Human nature is the only thing we have that gives us a moral compass and the social skills we need to live in peace. Destroy it, and you destroy our very species.
Don't paint yourself a savior in this. What you're doing is insane.
Is it? When this is done, the Illuminati won't be able to control men and women like you as they had planned, from the inside out. No one will be able to use the technology I invented to make others into beings they desire. Something we both know has happened already.
You think you're Frankenstein? Killing his own monster?
Actually, Mr. Jensen, I prefer to think of myself as Daedalus, watching helplessly as his child crashes into the sea.
I'm ending this. Now.
You can't. The signal is being generated from the broadcast center at the base of this facility. Pangaea's security system has been programmed to protect it, and will kill you before you even get close.
You designed that system, Darrow. You can tell me how to shut it down.
But I won't. You think what I'm doing is extreme. You simply don't understand. For humanity to survive beyond this century, it must abandon ill-conceived notions about transcendence and embrace change. But for that to happen, the hard lesson must be learned. Blood must be shed.
You think humanity needs to be punished? Is that it? Pain is the only thing people understand? By the time this is over, there will be no humanity left to embrace your change. The stress and horror you forced us to live through will have ripped it out of us.
I knew there would be casualties, but I thought, over time, surely the human spirit can recover. Even as I listen to your words, I realize a cruel truth. No one else has the vision to see what I've seen, the will to do what I have done. You're all too weak, judging but never acting. None of you have the moral courage to see this through to its conclusion. Well, so be it.
You want us to see what you see. Fine. Our humanity is threatened because technology is messing with our minds. But how can we recognize this message when we're grieving over the people you forced us to leave behind? Friends and neighbors, people we care about. Is the image of their murders the vision you want us to have?
I have shown humanity the price of its complacency, the price of pride and arrogance. If people don't have the wherewithal to put aside their emotions and recognize that, I don't give a damn what vision they see. Look at everything that has happened since this technology developed. Search your heart. You know as well as I do that humanity is on a downward spiral, torn apart from within because people like you can't resist the temptation to play God with your own evolution. Can't you see why we must take the temptation away?
You know, I've always wondered about that leg brace of yours. Why the father of augmentation doesn't have the most basic of implants. Doesn't make much sense, really. Unless he's one of the few people genetically incompatible with this technology. Gotta love the irony in that. It's the kind of irony that can tear you up inside, bit by bit, every day, until you find yourself despising what you're not.
How dare you? You think I've done all this because a fluke of nature robbed me of my chance to become a part of it? I tried everything, damn you! Everything I could think of to change! None of it worked! None of it!
So you had to fix it, didn't you? Take back control, make it like it never was.
Yes! Yes, that's exactly what have I done?
Give me the codes, Darrow. Help me stop this.
You'll still be in danger. Panchea's security system, much of it is self-determining and lethal. But if you succeed, if these codes help you turn off the system and reach the broadcast center, tell the world exactly why I did it. Explain to them about the Illuminati, the biochip, Panchea. Help them understand that the technology I created will not be a future any one of us desires.